What happens when the parents of autistic children use their kids as Ouija boards? I think that's a very good question to ask, and sadly, that is a question that we have answers to, and I'm going to be showing you in this documentary we're about to watch what I mean by that. And before we begin, I just want to clarify that I'm going to try to include as much context as possible and represent them as fairly as possible, despite telling you everything terrible that's actually happening. But if you don't believe me, you can go check out the documentary. I've included a link below. It's called Deej. And sadly, you will have to pay for it. You will have to pay these terrible people, so I don't recommend you do that. But you can if you must.
The ear that hears the cardinal hears in red. The eye that spots the salmon sees in wet. My senses always fall in love. They spin, swoon. They lose themselves in one another's arms.
Throughout this documentary, we get artistic renditions of poetry allegedly done by one DJ Savarese, otherwise known as Deej. The hand you saw reach out to type was his hand. But I think you will be agreeing with me very shortly that the poetry was not his poetry.
My name is David James Savarese, or DJ for short, but I prefer to be called Deej. I attend honors classes at Grinnell High School. I plan to go to college. I look hopefully forward to a golden life of full inclusion.
This documentary doesn't skip on the touching scenes, and we will be going through some of these as well. However, I think it's important to include this because if you just saw this scene, you might think, well, that's awesome. A young man who has autism succeeding in a world that is against him. That's great. And it would be, except...
Did you have certain things in your mind that you wanted to do? Go ahead.
My mom taught me how to learn. She's always there for me. I greet my mom feeling like everything is possible.
Okay.
Yes. You're to talk to Rob about film.
This scene is incredible, and it's frankly amazing that they left it in the documentary because it shows a few things very clearly. The first one is that she is doing the typing for him. Not only is she moving his hand, she's holding the board that he is typing on. Secondly, we're about to hear a lot of claims in this documentary that he can't really control his body that well, which is why he needs her to do everything for him. But we actually see very quickly that he reaches out and presses the button to play it himself. That is something he can do with no help at all, so why couldn't he do the thing just before? Finally, I think it's really interesting that throughout this documentary, practically the only thing Deej ever talks about is his parents. Does anybody else find that a little bit suspicious? Think back to when you were a teenager. You may have loved your parents a whole lot, but were they the only thing you ever talked about? Oh yeah, one more thing. Did you ever do poetry as a teenager? Do you remember that? What did you talk about? Because...
Your senses live alone like bachelors, like bitter, slanted rhymes whose marriage is a sham. They greet the world the way accountants greet their books.
Ah yes, what teenager doesn't fondly look back upon their time writing poetry about bachelors, sham marriages, and accounting?
People ask why I have someone support me while I type. The person helps me regulate my nervous system until my breathing slows, and my fingers and eyes can once again communicate with each other. By pulling back on my hand or arm, the person helps me regain control over my movement.
Here's a free lesson for anybody who wants to do a documentary where you try to use a lot of words to justify something that can't really be justified. At the end of your presentation, don't have the person do what you were just saying that they can't do. Don't have the person say in a whole lot of words, I am not capable of pressing buttons on my own, and then have them press a button on their own. But obviously, if you made it past that point, you were hooked anyway. If you made it past that point without having so much as a single doubt in your mind, nothing else is going to matter. You've bought in. You fully believe what is being argued here, and so you'll believe any justification, even if that justification goes against what you've just seen with your own eyes.
There's the basketball. That's been moving. The bowling ball's been sitting here. Which one has the most inertia? The basketball that's moving or the
Getting
bowling
nervous
ball that's
is
sitting
ultimately
here?
deafening to
Give an
me.
answer.
When I get fearful and desert the real world, I seem to detach my ears.
Need an answer.
A couple of things about that scene stood out to me. I think the first is that we don't really know how long he was sitting there before he supposedly answered. The second thing is we never have a clear line of sight on what is the final output of whatever it is that he is typing. We just don't get to know that stuff. In fact, it doesn't really look like he knows what is going on. And if you think that's offensive, that's perfectly fine. But what I mean is, take a look at this next scene.
Great, DJ. That's you. Way to move.
My dad is fun. He teaches American literature and disability studies at Grinnell College. I look to him for courage.
This documentary is of two minds, and in that it betrays itself. It betrays its whole thesis, which is that autism is merely a movement disorder. They want us to think that he is intellectually capable, which is why they want to build this idea that he is an honors student at his school. He just needs a little bit of help because he can't control his body. But they don't want us to think that he is completely dependent on his parents because we might start to think there's something suspicious about that. They must show him being independent in other ways, which means they show him doing things that require a lot of hand-eye coordination, showing he does have that ability. Also, don't be fooled by how wholesome his dad seems to be, like I was the first time I watched this, because his dad does disabilities studies. His dad should know that this communication technique and this whole narrative is nonsense.
Let's see, when you were in Michigan, you were with a number of people, and they were all people who are in your family. Good job.
I included this for fairness sake because I want you to decide, does it sound like he's really saying family? To me it doesn't. You may disagree. Let me know in the comments.
Hey DJ, do you want both of these documents opened up at once?
Mrs. Wilkins
We'll
is
show
dear.
this one first.
She is smart and demanding.
Or should he wait?
She is also cute.
If Deej isn't the person actually typing these words, this scene just became much weirder than it already was, because that means somebody else is trying to make it sound like Deej is interested in his teacher. So who is doing the typing? Well, I suspect it's his primary caregiver, his mother. And that's really interesting because she did talk about sham marriages before. Anyway, totally unrelated, but happy Pride Month, everybody.
Hey DJ, do you feel comfortable telling the class what your goals are? What you want to study?
Again, another thing that I can't believe they actually saw and were like, oh yeah, let's put that in there. That's going to convince everybody. That'll convince all the critics.
Most people still perceive of kids with autism as bad. Instead of teaching us to read and write, they keep us in segregated classrooms of easy lessons.
Plotting Hope is a play about autism that I wrote and assistant directed.
Probably the best evidence we have that the parents actually have some idea this is going on is that the kids are always Renaissance men of the arts. They always know all about poetry and playwriting and authorship, but they never want to do things like rocket science. They never want to be groundbreaking biologists. Nothing like that. It's always something that would be easy for a 47-year-old woman. Okay, hold on. I know what you're thinking, but I didn't mean it like that.
Yes, deserting fear by holding pleasure in estimating you as possibly autistic.
I don't know. I've known you since 3rd grade and never really thought of you as not being able to function because I was watching you function since I first saw you.
But that is false, because we have already seen him in the best light possible. This is a documentary in support of his case, and we have already seen him not functional.
I'm surprised that he seemed like, did he seem to want to do that?
He said he wanted to.
He did. Great. All right. He's going to sit up there the whole time that everybody's talking.
That's the plan. And he said if he gets nervous, he might just come right back down after he gets his award.
Should I go over there?
I'll go over there.
Okay.
And you stay here, and you might have to just lure him and point him up there.
Now, to my ears, it sounds like Mom had a plan, and the plan the dad thinks is not a good one. The plan is Deej is going to sit alone while waiting to get his award, and it's going to be awesome. And the dad is like, I don't know if that's going to be so awesome. And the mom's like, okay, I guess I'll just go wait then.
David James Savarese is the son of Ralph and Emily Savarese and is currently a junior. Megan Lynn Schmidt is the daughter of Scott and Denise Schmidt and is currently a junior.
He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea why he's there. He has no idea why he's being corralled around by his parents and can't just leave. He has no idea about any of this stuff, and I imagine it's a very distressing situation for someone like him to be in.
Yes, I fear losing you.
Wow, DJ. It's not an either-or situation, right? You can get free, which means you can become more independent. You can make friends. You can find a special person. None of that means you lose your parents.
The arc of this documentary is that Deej is preparing to go to college, and they're preparing him to go to college alone. That's what is being alleged here, that they really thought that he could make it by himself at a college, with assistance of course, but without them. There was no way that was ever happening, and I think that was obvious from almost the beginning of the documentary, but they insist on trying to make us believe this lie.
I think DJ very much wants to be independent. He just has such a vexed relationship to that concept. You know, he instinctively senses that the second he's free and independent, something negative will ensue.
He doesn't realize that from our perspective, the reason he's our son is because we fell madly in love with him and couldn't live without him.
The first rule of holes is if you find yourself in one, stop digging. Somehow, these parents never learned that, and look at how deep this hole is getting.
Sadness drew the trees together. Wasted, freaky actions took over my arms.
Imagine for a minute that you don't have speech, and you are removed from your home for reasons no one bothers to tell you, because you can't speak. So they assume you can't hear, or think, or feel.
Surrounded by areas of resentful, easy to get lost desertion. I grew numb.
I try to be an optimist. I know I'm not very good at it, but I try, and I have to imagine that somehow they've just fumbled their way into all of this and didn't end up here deliberately, that somehow the opportunities just kept popping up and kept popping up and kept popping up, and eventually they found themselves in the middle of doing this play and figuring out how to make it work. Because if this was intentional, if they knew what was going on here, this is probably the biggest own goal I have ever seen in my whole life.
When I was barely 3, my biological mom got arrested for deserting me and my sister. My sister went to live with our biological father, and I got put in foster care. I was often locked in my room and looked upon as a burden.
Some of this information, I assume, is correct. I assume the parents got it through the adoption agency or through other means, but I assume it's essentially correct. But there is something that I have to point out, which is that facilitated communication has been used to issue false allegations of abuse against caregivers. The technique has also been used to abuse autistic people, as when Anna Stubblefield did it. That was made into a documentary called Tell Them You Love Me, which is full of all the garish details you'll never be able to set yourself free from if you dare watch it.
In my childhood, cameras were translators. Mom and Dad took pictures of everything. Fun activities, places, people. They used the photos to teach me that words have meaning and not just melody. I freely pointed at answer banks to show my teachers what I knew. In 4th grade, everything clicked. Sounds suddenly had meaning, and the words on the page stood in an orderly row.
This kind of shows that they do care about him, they do love him, but I don't think that was ever really in question. It's just that they're not giving him what he needs. What does he need? Does he need to go to college? No, that's what they need. That's what they want for him. I would like to see Deej taken care of for his needs.
It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead. Deej, come on. Come on. You don't have to be tough. Nobody's asking you to prove yourself.
Deej, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Old habits. Old habits. Stop. It's rude. It's not useful. Stop.
This is exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about. He doesn't want to be in this situation. He doesn't know what this situation is. He doesn't know what's going on. And she's treating him like he's doing it on purpose to be some kind of a rebel, like he's being James Dean here or something.
I am sad that I ruined the interview. It is very hard to watch the footage. Instead of Mr. Rudolph and Mom, I see scary people who want sex. I am very afraid.
There is an entire Wikipedia page about false allegations of abuse delivered through facilitated communications. I want you to think about that for a second, because as dark as this scene was, we are lucky it didn't go further into accusing a bunch of school staff of something they didn't even do.
I love poetry and playwriting.
Excellent. At Co, we're really a community of writers. I think that's one of the really cool advantages.
You're okay. Come on, Deej.
I keep getting out of my chair because I fear doing something inappropriate.
Come on. Deej, how old were you when your first thing got published? Come on. Come on. We don't have a lot of time to be standing up and sitting down. Let's go.
Deej, I'm going to stop for a while.
My active assumption is that he probably doesn't want to be in that situation. How do I know this? Well, he's trying to escape. He's trying to leave. What more do you need to know than he's trying to get away from it? That's not a place he needs to be, Mom. He needs to be out of there. You need to show him some support. But luckily, it seems like people started to get wise after this whole thing.
So would Mom be attending classes, or would you have a different assistant or anyone helping you, or would you be typing on your own at that point?
Typing. On my own.
I promise I did not edit that in any way, shape, or form. That is what really happens in the documentary. They show the person asking if Deej is going to type with his mom or if he's going to be doing it independently. The device then reads out, "I'm going to be doing it independently." But they never show who did the typing, but I think it's obvious who did the typing, or else why would they even bother showing the question being asked?
Here are some things you might want to text to Mom or to Dad. Point to one and Seth can help you.
I'm planning a trip from Washington, D.C. to Boston with my cousin Seth. I need to practice being out in the world without my mom and dad.
Couple of questions here. First, why does he need that instead of the typey thing? Could it be because Seth doesn't know how to do the typey thing? Because you have to kind of like train yourself to use another human as a Ouija board. Could that be the case? Second question, why don't we ever see him use that thing instead then? Why don't we ever see him use the thing he can just point to? Well, I'll tell you why. Because he doesn't know how to use it. Because he doesn't know how to use that. He doesn't know what that thing is for. He doesn't know what it's doing any more than the typey things.
We saw in you the kind of person who will excel at Oberlin, someone who is academically and socially engaged, someone curious about life, and someone ready to take intellectual risks to better yourself and the world. Your accomplishments, your passion, and your commitment to achievement make you a perfect fit for Oberlin.
Wow, DJ, I am so happy for you.
That's a wholesome scene, isn't it? But what should make you a little bit upset is that if it's true that she's doing the work and not him, it's actually her that got into Oberlin, and Oberlin has a 34% acceptance rate, meaning if he's there, somebody who deserves to be is not.
I decided to take a year off between high school and college before I hold myself in control on my own.
Oh look, it's Deej doing another thing that he shouldn't be able to do if autism is only a movement disorder.
Deej, you gotta breathe. Listen to me, you gotta breathe. Calm yourself down. Better.
It is the end of January. Mom and I are moving to Oberlin 6 months early, as I need to get familiar with the campus and town.
Raise your hands if you are surprised that his mom does end up going with him to Oberlin College. Let me see. 1, 2, 0. None of you. Not a single one. But if you had been watching it, you might have found it a compelling enough emotional hook to keep watching it, and by the point that it's revealed he doesn't actually gain any independence whatsoever, you're stuck watching it. May as well finish it.
Jen hears my heartbeat, and I hear hers. I'm nuts about her. I really hope by holding her in my mind I can free my dear self from Mom. I hope she freshly thinks the same.
This whole thing is fucking weird. It's really, really weird, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you've got Deej saying he has this crush on this girl he knows at school, which is actually, his mom is saying that. His mom is the one delivering that message to us. And she's also telling us, in another way, she is getting very stressed out about this whole situation. However, before we continue, I must warn you that this next scene is quite disturbing. Nothing super terrible happens other than we see Deej in a whole lot of distress and his mom not helping the situation any, and it's worse than the ones before, so if you think you can handle that, please proceed.
Stop. Listen to me. Nobody's saying that you have to live anywhere, okay? DJ, get a hold of yourself right now. No, listen to me. Get a hold of yourself right now. Okay? Your name is DJ Savarese. You are 20 years old. You are on a walk in a neighborhood. You have perhaps lost track of your body. You are not in danger.
Again, this is not a situation that Deej had to be in, or even one that he needed to be in. This was a situation that his parents chose for him, based on the idea that he should live what you might call a normal life, a life that is entirely outside of his reach. And by pressing this situation as far as they have, obviously it's made this happen.
As college nears, I hold Mom hostage more and more.
As if it wasn't bad enough to be made into a human Ouija board and guided through a bunch of situations you don't want to be in, your mother now acts like you're the one holding her hostage.
Can we talk about some other filming opportunities? Such as walking across campus, or in some kind of orientation session?
Not sure we agreed to so much filming at Oberlin.
This is intended to be a look into just one life that has been negatively impacted by facilitated communication. In reality, the stories get a lot worse than this. This one is very mild, but I don't think to say that it is very mild is the same as saying it's okay. Facilitated communication kills, and that is not an overstatement. It has killed in the past, and it will again in the future. Facilitated communication is known by many names because every time they get some scrutiny, they have to change their name to something else like RPM, Rapid Prompting Method, or S2C, Spelling to Communicate. But they're all the same thing, and they all hurt children and adults alike, as you can clearly see from this video. In essence, be wary of magical cures. Sometimes they're just magical bullshit.